Hey there guys, EctoMaster here, and no, we're not getting back into Diablo 3. I just thought it would be more apropos to what we are about to talk about, or what I'm about to talk about, and hopefully you're going to listen to. This is about the exclusive release of titles for games. And by exclusive, I mean on this console, but not on this console. On this gaming platform, but not on this platform, or this platform. And what it's in reference to. So obviously I am speaking about the news that came out today, which is the news about Rise of the Tomb Raider, the sequel to the Tomb Raider game that I had just finished, and what I think about it. Now, for those of you who haven't been following, or have, I do apologize if you have been following and what I'm about to say is redundant, but it's the basis for what I want to express my feelings about. And why I think releasing titles exclusively onto one platform when it's been on other platforms prior to that release, why it's a bad idea and detrimental towards the gaming industry as a whole. Not just for the companies, but for the fans, most importantly. So let's get into it. It was announced earlier today that Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, basically, would be released exclusively on the Xbox One. Which is a little... which has made a lot of fans a little angry. And by little, I just mean everybody is not liking this idea at all. And the reasoning behind it from Square Enix and from Crystal Dynamics, it doesn't seem to make sense to any of us. Now, the original title, the previous game, the one that I just finished, Tomb Raider, was released at the same time, on the same day, same time for all three platforms, and those three being the big three: Windows, PC, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. And then it came about a year later to be on Mac as well. But as we all know, Macs don't tend to be very hardcore gaming machines, so typically whenever you're talking about platforms, there's four platforms that we talk about: the Nintendo platform, the Sony platform, the Microsoft platforms, and the Microsoft platforms, because they do have the two, the PC and the Xbox 3 and the Xbox. So this game was originally released for the Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. And it was released at the same time, and to go off of it, it was very, it was delayed from late 2012 to early 2013. It received critical acclaim when it was released. Everyone's saying the graphics, the gameplay, the actress as Laura's characterization, the development, and although multiplayer wasn't, it was kind of criticized. The game itself, on a whole, was fantastic, and I will especially be talking about that this coming Sunday when I finally give my case file on Tomb Raider. And it sold, to continue with it, it sold 1 million copies within 48 hours of its release, and it sold more than 6.5 million copies as of the 9th of June 2014. An updated version known as Tomb Raider Definitive Edition was released in North America on the 28th of January and for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and it contains all the features and DLC. So just to give a little background on the first game. The fact that they have turned around and said that they are going to release it exclusively on the Xbox One, it doesn't make sense. And I'm not going to say here is why it doesn't make sense. Let me read to you what the head of Crystal Dynamics, Daryl Gallagher, has said. And this is, quote, "As you may have seen, we've just announced the Rise of the Tomb Raider coming holiday 2015 is exclusively on Xbox. We consider all of you to be the lifeblood of Tomb Raider and the work we do at Crystal. I'd like to give you some insight into this decision and why we feel it is the very best thing for the Tomb Raider sequel we're creating at the studio. Tomb Raider in 2013 was a success due in large part to your continued support. Our goal has always been to deliver something truly special with Rise of the Tomb Raider. Today's announcement with Microsoft is one step to help us put Tomb Raider on top of action-adventure gaming. Our friends at Microsoft have always seen a huge potential in Tomb Raider and have believed in our vision since our very first unveil with them on the stage at E3 2011. We know they will get behind this game more than any support we have had from them in the past. We believe this will be a step to really forging the Tomb Raider brand as one of the biggest in gaming with the help, belief, and backing of a major partner like Microsoft. This doesn't mean that we're walking away from our fans who play on PlayStation or on PC. Those are great systems with great partners and amazing communities. We have Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris coming to those platforms this December, and Tomb Raider the Definitive Edition is available on PS4. End quote. Here is where I'm trying not to call BS on his statement, because it doesn't make sense. When you're looking at it and going, and again, I'm quoting him, we believe this will be a step to really forging the Tomb Raider brand as one of the biggest in gaming with the help, belief, and backing of a major partner like Microsoft, and then turn around and say it's not going to be on the PC. That's a little, I guess the word I'm looking for, not redundant, but maybe oxymoronic. Because Microsoft is the operating system the vast majority of gaming PCs run off of. Microsoft also makes Xbox. So how is it that the backing of Microsoft, you can put it onto the Xbox, but not onto the PC? For somebody like that, for somebody like me, that doesn't make sense to me. Furthermore, Tomb Raider has always been on the PlayStation. Going all the way back to the very first Tomb Raider game in 1996, 97, somewhere around there. The very first game came out on Sega Saturn, PlayStation, and the PC. To turn around and say it's not going to be on two of those anymore, now obviously Sega Saturn is no longer in production, and Sega doesn't have any consoles out, but to turn around and say the other two that launched with the very first game are not going to get the newest game, that doesn't make sense to me. Again, it does not seem to make sense. And I sit back and I look at this and I go, why? Why are you releasing it only on the Xbox One? And if we want to break it down and look at it, it was released onto 6 platforms total. So I'm going to combine 2 of those platforms into one. The PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4, and then the Xbox One and the Xbox 360. And then I will combine it. I won't combine Mac OS, and I'll leave that out of the equation. So we're going to look at the 3 platforms: Windows, PlayStation, and Xbox. It has sold 6.5 million copies since being released. So let's do some math. So I've got it on my calculator. 6.5 million copies divided by 3. That is, trying to get my bearings here. That is 2,166,666.66 repeating of it since it was released on each platform. So if you look at that, that is the amount of copies that they could possibly sell on that. Now, keep in mind that we have to divide that by 2, because I did combine each one. I combined Mac OS and the computer PC gaming. I combined the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One and the PlayStation 3 and 4. So keeping that in mind, they are hoping to maybe get 1,083,333.33 repeating copies. So approximately 1 million copies by just releasing it on the Xbox One. That is just going off the sales of Tomb Raider. That is going off of the sales that every person who bought Tomb Raider would buy Rise of the Tomb Raider. So if you're releasing it only on the Xbox One, we're not counting anybody who may have or may not have just brought it over from their Xbox 360. We're not including that. I am taking their 6.5 million copies. I am dividing it by 6. And they are hoping, against hope, to get about 1 million copies just by releasing it on the Xbox One. I don't know how many Xbox Ones have been released, but seeing as the number of Xbox 360s are out there and only 6.5 million copies of the game have been sold, just going off of that data alone, I know it's very kind of hokey data. It's like you can't really garner because we don't know how many Xboxes have been sold. But if you're just going off of that, because Tomb Raider doesn't appeal to everyone. There may be 5 million Xboxes out there that were bought, but only a fifth of that may be appealing to the Tomb Raider crowd. And that's where it's kind of counterintuitive. They're saying that one of the things that they're saying is that the numbers weren't what they wanted in regards to how well it did. So obviously to them, the next logical step is to restrict the amount of people who can purchase their game. To me, that just doesn't make sense. Why are you going to take away from those who could play the game and put it exclusively onto one? This isn't a brand new title. This isn't a title that nobody has seen before. This is Tomb Raider. We are all familiar with it. I never played a Tomb Raider game until the previous one, and yet I know about Tomb Raider because it's one of those titles. This isn't like The Order that is coming out on the PS4, which is a brand new title, never been released before. Nobody really knows what it's about, except for it seems to have zombies, vampires, and werewolves all rolled into one. And yet, it is only going to be on the PlayStation 4, I believe. And I look at that and go, that makes sense, because it's new. It's brand new. It's not going to be something that is spread out all over. This is not something that everybody is backing. This is something, the Order 1886, that's what it's called. This is not something that is from a major company. It's from Ready at Dawn. And to look at theirs, let's see. They did a game called Daxter, which was their first game in 2006 for the PlayStation Portable. God of War Chains of Olympus for the PlayStation Portable, Okami for the Wii, God of War Ghosts of Sparta PlayStation Portable, God of War Origins Collection PlayStation 3, and now the Order 1886 PlayStation 4. So obviously this is a company that works directly with PlayStation, except for the one lone game that came out on the Wii. Okay, that makes sense. Understandable. But when you look at even, say, Square Enix or Crystal Dynamics. Square Enix, their games.
But could you talk some sense into Leah? She won't give up on the idea.
I know they did. Let's see. We have starting in 2003, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2. Everything they have pretty much released has either been on the Game Boy or Nintendo DS or on Windows or PlayStation 2. The very first non-Nintendo, non-Sony platform was Final Fantasy XI on the Xbox 360. And that was in April 18th, 2006. The next one was later that year in September. And that was Project Sylphid. And I'm just going through it. I am going through their list to see when the next one was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2007. So it took another year for them to get another one out. And that's only 3 titles thus far. That's only 3. 2008, Infinite Discovery. 2008, Quantum of Solace. But that one was cross-platform. So, again, that's not exclusive just to the Xbox. The Last Remnant, it's 2008.
Captain Dalton.
This is me looking for 2009 Batman Arkham Asylum, but again, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Mini Ninjas, but again, cross platforms. Same with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Zero Day Attack on Earth, 2003, December 23rd, 2009. That was the next sole launch. So they're putting out maybe one every year for Xbox 360 or Xbox. And the fact that they're turning around and doing, you know, here it is, Kingdom Hearts 3, which was a series only on PlayStation, is going to be on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Okay. But I think you get my drift here, in that they've mainly released games for... They haven't released things on...
For a long time, Uncle Deckard avoided
on
coming
360,
back.
and going back even to Crystal Dynamics, and I'm looking for it. There's one that just says
whatever it was
Mad Dash Racing in 2001 was the first time that they produced something solely for the Xbox. That was it. Everything else after that, except for one occurrence, was Xbox and Windows, or Xbox and PlayStation, and Mac OS and all of that. So here it is. You have two companies that have been on multi-platforms with games that have been on multi-platforms that are not releasing on multi-platforms. Then you have games like Destiny, which is not going to be on the PC, and yet Bungie has released games on the PC. And I turn around and I look at this and go, why are companies restricting the games that they release? I mean, to look at their own. Now, Halo Combat Evolved was on the Xbox, Windows, and Mac. Halo 2 is on Xbox and Windows. It wasn't until Halo 3 where they finally said it's just going to be on the 360. And now they're doing Destiny, and Destiny's going to be on the PlayStation 3, 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, and they have totally abandoned Windows entirely. And I look at that and I wonder why, when I look at half of their titles and it's been released on Windows or on the Mac. And they've given up on Mac and they've given up on Windows. So it's not like when EA turned around and made Madden gaming exclusive to consoles only and completely removed it from the PC entirely. I used to play Madden on the console and on the PC. And after I played it on the console and then moved over to the PC, I actually enjoyed it more on the PC. That being said, they turned around and said that it wasn't performing as well as it was on the consoles as it was on the PC. So they turned around and decided to cancel putting it out on the PC. Makes sense. I don't agree with that because I personally liked playing on the PC with it, but it makes sense and I understood it. Then you have companies like Blizzard who turned around and used to make games on consoles with Hot Rod Racing and The Lost Vikings, and they turned around and started releasing games on the PC, like StarCraft and Warcraft and Diablo. And a couple of those made their way over to consoles as well, the biggest being Diablo 3, which is what we're watching here. And why I picked it, why I played it. Because it is a game that did make that leap from PC to console. And they expanded their horizon and reached to more people. So much so that my brother, who played the game on the Xbox, was considering on getting it for the Xbox. Didn't, but he was considering it. To me, when you decide to take a game that is cross-platform to begin with, and decide to restrict that to just one type, it's already cross-platform. It's already there. Why are we going to, as I said, restrict it to just one? everyone just looks at it and goes, why? Why do that? And then the answer that you give is, we want to reach out. The communities are great. Then why are you taking it away from the community? Why don't you give it to the community and let the community have it? Instead, you're going to restrict the community. You're going to cut your community in a third and almost a sixth, just so that the community you can put it exclusively on this. Now, I'm sitting here and I know a lot of people are going to look at this and go, well, look at Rise, Son of Rome, which is coming to the PC. After it was released, I think on, I think it was Xbox. I believe it was Xbox. Give me just a moment. I want to make sure. I think it was specifically for the Xbox One.
Afraid to speak against the Archbishop.
Yes, it was for the Xbox One exclusive release, and is coming later this year for the PC. So it's going to take a year for it to get onto the PC, at least around a year for it to get on the PC. That's when I look at that and go, it's been a year. I'm not going to shell out $60 for a year-old game just because they finally decided to release it onto the PC. Same thing with this. I didn't buy Tomb Raider right off the bat because I wasn't a big Tomb Raider fan. I didn't enjoy the games before. I had never played them before, and they never really interested me. I decided to take a shot with this Tomb Raider, and sure enough, it got bigger apropos. It was much better than any of the previous iterations because Lara Croft was a human being and not a sex symbol. I absolutely love the game, and again, we'll go over that in a few days. Now they're turning around and saying, we're going to release, it may be released on the other platforms. When? Rise, Son of Rome took a year. In a year's time, I'm not going to pay $60 for a full price game, $60 for a game that's a year old. It's not going to hold my interest anymore. That's where the problem lies. Companies will then look at that and go, well, nobody's buying the game. This is the reason why we didn't release it onto these platforms. Nobody wanted to play it. Nobody wants to buy it. No. Companies need to realize when you release exclusive titles for games that have not been exclusively on those platforms before, you are losing out on fans, and you're hurting the community. You're hurting the industry. You're hurting everybody. Fans won't buy the game when it comes out onto their console or their platform, mainly because it took 6 months, it took a year, it took 2 years for me to get a copy of it. And you as a company want to charge me the full price for the base game. No, they could turn around and bundle all the DLC up and charge $70 for it. I still wouldn't pay $70 for it. I would pay maybe maximum $30, including all the DLC, $30. Only because that isn't the way you do it. You don't charge full price for a game, even if it comes with all the DLC. I don't believe that's fair. That's not right, especially if it's a game that has been on that platform prior. If it's a new concept and it has never been on that platform before, I can understand. The reasons that companies give for reducing the availability of a game to other platforms is ludicrous. This is the most outrageous one. Saying you're partnering with Microsoft because it gives them the best opportunity, but you're restricted on the PC, which is a mostly Microsoft-run product. You're restricted on the PlayStation, which the previous game was on. You're restricted on everything but one platform. It is not on the 360. It is not on the PlayStation 3. It is not on the 4. It is not on the PC. It is not on the Mac. You just took your 6.5 million copies and cut them into a sixth of the amount that you will be getting. Square Enix, I hope that teaches you a lesson. When you reach an exclusive title that wasn't exclusive, when you decide to go exclusive with that, like that, you are only hurting yourselves and you're angering the fans. The fans will tar and feather tar and feather you more for not giving them a product when they had the product ahead of time, or branding them as such as you did. They will tar and feather you more than if you turned around and delayed the game another year to release it all over. That's all I have for now, guys. I will see you next time.